An Address to the New Tay Bridge by William McGonagall. Read for LibriVox.org by Juliann. Beautiful new railway bridge of the silvery Tay, with your strong brick piers and buttresses in so grand array, and your 13 central girders, which seem to my eye strong enough all windy storms to defy. And as I gaze upon thee my heart feels gay, because thou art the greatest railway bridge of the present day, and can be seen for miles away, from north, south, east, or west of the Tay, on a beautiful and clear sunshiny day, and ought to make the hearts of the Mars boys feel gay, because thine equal nowhere can be seen, only near by Dundee and the bonny Magdalen Green. Beautiful new railway bridge of the silvery Tay, with thy beautiful side screens along your railway, which will be a great protection on a windy day, so as the railway carriages won't be blown away, and ought to cheer the hearts of the passengers night and day, as they are conveyed along thy beautiful railway, and towering above the silvery Tay, spanning the beautiful river shore to shore, upwards of 2 miles and more, which is the most beautiful to be seen, near by Dundee and the bonny Magdalen Green. Thy structure to my eye seems strong and grand, and the workmanship most skilfully planned, and I hope the designers, Messrs. Barlow and Arrol, will prosper for many a day, for erecting thee across the beautiful Tay. And I think nobody need have the least dismay to cross over thee by night or by day, because thy strength is visible to be seen, near by Dundee and the bonny Magdalen Green. Beautiful new railway bridge of the silvery Tay, I wish you success for many a year and a day, and I hope thousands of people will come from far away, both high and low, without delay, from the north, south, east, and west, because as a railway bridge thou art the best. Thou standest unequalled to be seen, near by Dundee and bonny Magdalen Green. And for beauty thou art most lovely to be seen, as the train crosses over thee with her cloud of steam, and you look well, painted the colour of maroon, and to find thy equal there is none, which without fear of contradiction I venture to say, because you are the longest railway bridge of the present day, that now crosses o'er a tidal river stream, and the most handsome to be seen, near by Dundee and the bonny Magdalen Green. The New Yorkers boast about their Brooklyn Bridge, but in comparison to thee it seems like a midge, because thou spannest the silvery Tay, a mile and more longer I venture to say. Besides, the railway carriages are pulled across by a rope, therefore Brooklyn Bridge cannot with thee cope. And as you have been opened on the 20th day of June, I hope Her Majesty Queen Victoria will visit thee very soon, because thou art worthy of a visit from Duke, Lord, or Queen, and strong and securely built, which is most worthy to be seen, near by Dundee and the bonny Magdalen Green. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Alexander's Feast, or The Power of Music, by John Dryden. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy, Perth, Western Australia. 'Twas at the royal feast for Persia won by Philip's warlike son. Aloft in awful state the godlike hero sate on his imperial throne. His valiant peers were placed around, their brows with roses and with myrtles bound, so should desert in arms be crowned. The lovely Thais by his side sate like a blooming Eastern bride, in flower of youth and beauty's pride. happy, happy, happy pair! None but the brave, none but the brave, none but the brave deserves the fair. Timotheus, placed on high amid the tuneful choir, with flying fingers touch the lyre, the trembling notes ascend the sky, and heavenly joys inspire. This song began from Jove, who left his blissful seats above, such is the power of mighty love. A dragon's fiery form belied the god, sublime on radiant spires he rode, when he to fair Olympia pressed, and while he sought her snowy breast, then round her slender waist he curled, and stamped an image of himself, as sovereign of the world. The listening crowd admire the lofty sound. "A present deity!" they shout around. "A present deity!" the vaulted roofs rebound. With ravaged ears the monarch hears, assumes the god, affects to nod, and seems to shake the spheres. The praise of Bacchus then the sweet musicians sung, of Bacchus ever fair and ever young. The jolly god in triumph comes. Sound the trumpets, beat the drums. Flushed with the purple grace, he shows his honest face. Now give the hautboys breath. He comes, he comes. Bacchus, ever fair and young, drinking joys did first ordain. Bacchus' blessings are a treasure. Drinking is the soldier's pleasure, rich the treasure, sweet the pleasure, sweet is pleasure after pain. Soothed with the sound, the king grew vain, fought all his battles o'er again, and thrice he routed all his foes, and thrice he slew the slain. The master saw the madness rise, his glowing cheeks, his ardent eyes, and while he heaven and earth defied, changed his hand and checked his pride. He chose a mournful muse, soft pity to infuse. He sung Darius great and good, by too severe a fate fallen, 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 fallen. Fallen from his high estate, and weltering in his blood. Deserted at his utmost need by those his former bounty fed. On the bare earth exposed he lies, with not a friend to close his eyes. With downcast looks the joyless victor sate, revolving in his altered soul the various turns of chance below. And now and then a sigh he stole, and tears began to flow. The mighty master smiled to see that love was in the next degree. 'Twas but a kindred sound to move, for pity melts the mind to love. Softly sweet in Lydian measures soon he soothed his soul to pleasures. War he sung, his toil and trouble, honour but an empty bubble, never ending, still beginning, fighting still, and still destroying. If the world be worth thy winning, think, oh think it worth enjoying. Lovely Thais sits beside thee, take the good the gods provide thee. The many rend the skies with loud applause. So love was crowned, but music won the cause. The prince, unable to conceal his pain, gazed on the fair who caused his care, and sighed and looked, sighed and looked, sighed and looked, and sighed again. At length with love and wine at once oppressed, the vanquished victor sunk upon her breast. Now strike the golden lyre again, a louder yet, and yet a louder strain. Break his bands of sleep asunder, and rouse him like a rattling peal of thunder. Hark, hark, the horrid sound has raised up his head, as awaked from the dead, and amazed he stares around. Revenge, revenge, Timotheus cries. See the Furies arise. See the snakes that they rear, how they hiss in their hair, and the sparkles that flash from their eyes. Behold a ghastly band, each a torch in his hand. These are Grecian ghosts, that in battle were slain, and unburied remain, inglorious on the plain. Give the vengeance due to the valiant crew. Behold how they toss their torches on high, how they point to the Persian abodes, and glittering temples of their hostile gods. The princes applaud with a furious joy, and the king seized a flambeau with zeal to destroy. Thais led the way to light him to his prey, and like another Helen fired another Troy. Thus long ago, ere heaving bellows learned to blow, while organs yet were mute, Timotheus, to his breathing flute and sounding lyre, could swell the soul to rage, or kindle soft desire. At last divine Cecilia came, inventress of the vocal frame. The sweet enthusiast from her sacred store enlarged the former narrow bounds, and added length to solemn sounds, with nature's mother wit and arts unknown before. Let old Timotheus yield the prize, or both divide the crown. He raised a mortal to the skies, she drew an angel down. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Breasal the Fisherman by William Butler Yeats. Read for LibriVox.org by INT Josh. Although you hide in the ebb and flow of the pale tide when the moon has set, the people of coming days will know about the casting out of my net, and how you have leaped, times out of mind, over the little silver cords, and think that you were hard and unkind, and blame you with many bitter words. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Come Down, O Maid, from The Princess by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Read for LibriVox.org by Martin Geeson, in Hazelmere, Surrey. Come down, O maid, from yonder mountain height. What pleasure lives in height? The shepherd sang. In height and cold, the splendour of the hills. But cease to move so near the heavens, and cease to glide a sunbeam by the blasted pine, to sit a star upon the sparkling spire. And come, for love is of the valley, come, for love is of the valley. Come thou down and find him, by the happy threshold he, or hand in hand with plenty in the maize, or red with spurted purple of the vats, or fox-like in the vine, nor cares to walk with death and mourning on the silver horns, nor wilt thou snare him in the white ravine, nor find him dropped upon the firths of ice, that huddling slant in furrow-cloven falls, to roll the torrent out of dusky doors. But follow, let the torrent dance thee down, to find him in the valley. Let the wild lean-headed eagles yelp alone, and leave the monstrous ledges there to slope, and spill their thousand wreaths of dangling water-smoke, that like a broken purpose waste in air. So waste not thou, but come, for all the vales await thee. Azure pillars of the hearth arise to thee, the children call, and I thy shepherd pipe, and sweet is every sound. Sweeter thy voice, but every sound is sweet. Myriads of rivulets hurrying through the lawn, the moan of doves in immemorial elms, and murmuring of innumerable bees. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Evanescence by Harriet Prescott Spofford. Read for LibriVox.org by Anniestophanes, in England. What's the brightness of a brow? What's a mouth of pearls and corals? Beauty vanishes like a vapour, preach the men of musty morals. Should the crowd then, ages since, have shut their ears to singing Homer, because the music fled as soon as fleets the violet's aroma? Ah, for me, I thrill to see the bloom a velvet cheek discloses. Made of dust, I well believe it. So are lilies, so are roses. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Finis by Walter Savage Landor. Read for LibriVox.org by Florence Short. I strove with none, for none was worth my strife. Nature I loved, and next to nature, art. I warmed both hands before the fire of life. It sinks, and I am ready to depart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Grindstone by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Having a wheel and 4 legs of its own has never availed the cumbersome grindstone to get it anywhere that I can see. These hands have helped it go and even race. Not all the motion, though, they ever lent, and not all the miles it may have thought it went, have got it 1 step from the starting place. It stands beside the same old apple tree. The shadow of the apple tree is thin upon it now. Its feet are fast in snow. All other farm machinery's gone in, and some of it on no more legs and wheel than the grindstone can boast to stand or go. I'm thinking chiefly of the wheelbarrow. For months it hasn't known the taste of steel, washed down with rusty water in a tin. But standing outdoors hungry in the cold, except in towns, at night, is not a sin. And anyway, its standing in the yard under a ruinous live apple tree has nothing any more to do with me, except that I remember how of old one summer day all day I drove it hard, and someone mounted on it rode it hard, and he and I, between us, ground a blade. I gave it the preliminary spin and poured on water, tears it might have been, and when it almost gaily jumped and flowed, a Father Time-like man got on and rode, armed with a scythe and spectacles that glowed. He turned on willpower to increase the load and slow me down, and I abruptly slowed, like coming to a sudden railroad station. I changed from hand to hand in desperation. I wondered what machine of ages gone this represented an improvement on. For all I knew, it may have sharpened spears and arrowheads itself. Much use for years had gradually worn it an oblate spheroid that kicked and struggled in its gait, appearing to return me hate for hate. But I forgive it now as easily as any other boyhood enemy whose pride has failed to get him anywhere. I wondered who it was the man thought ground, the one who held the wheel back, or the one who gave his life to keep it going round. I wondered if he really thought it fair for him to have the say when we were done. Such were the bitter thoughts to which I turned. Not for myself was I so much concerned. Oh, no! Although, of course, I could have found a better way to pass the afternoon than grinding discord out of a grindstone and beating insects at their gritty tune. Nor was I for the man so much concerned. Once when the grindstone almost jumped its bearing, it looked as if he might be badly thrown and wounded on his blade. So far from caring, I laughed and sighed, and only cranked the faster. It ran as if it wasn't greased but glued. I welcomed any moderate disaster that might be calculated to postpone what evidently nothing could conclude. The thing that made me more and more afraid was that we'd ground it sharp and hadn't known, and now were only wasting precious blade. And when he raised it dripping once and tried the creepy edge of it with wary touch, and viewed it over his glasses, funny-eyed, only disinterestedly to decide it needed a turn more, I could have cried, wasn't there a danger of a turn too much? Mightn't we make it worse instead of better? I was for leaving something to the wetter. What if it wasn't all it should be? I'd be satisfied, if he'd be satisfied. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Happiness by John Frederick Freeman. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. I have found happiness who looked not for it. There was a green fresh hedge, and willows by the riverside, and whistling sedge. The heaviness I felt was all around. No joy sang in the wind, only dull, slow life everywhere, and in my mind. Then from the sedge a bird cried, and all changed. Heaviness turned to mirth. The willows the stream's cheek caressed, the sun the earth. What was it in the bird's song worked such change? The grass was wonderful. I did not dream such beauty was in things so dull. What was it in the bird's song gave the water that living, sentient look, lent the rare brightness to the hedge, that sweetness shook down on the green path by the running water, or the small daisies lit with light of the white northern stars in dark skies set? What was it made the whole world marvelous? Mere common things were joys, the cloud running upon the grass, children's faint noise, the trees that grow straight up and stretch wide arms, the snow heaped in the skies, the light falling so simply on all. My lifted eyes that all this startling, aching beauty saw. I felt the sharp excess of joy like the strong sun at noon, insupportable bliss. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
How the Leaves Came Down by Susan Coolidge. Read for LibriVox.org by Loubet. I'll tell you how the leaves came down, the great tree to his children said. You're getting sleepy, yellow and brown, yes, very sleepy, little red. It is quite time to go to bed. Ah, begged each silly pouting leaf, let us a little longer stay. Dear Father Tree, behold our grief, 'tis such a very pleasant day, we do not want to go away. So for just one more merry day to the great tree the leaflets clung, frolicked and danced and had their way, upon the autumn breezes swung, whispering all their sports among. Perhaps the great tree will forget and let us stay until the spring if we all beg and coax and fret. But the great tree did no such thing. He smiled to hear their whispering. Come, children, all to bed, he cried. And ere the leaves could urge their prayer, he shook his head, and far and wide, fluttering and rustling everywhere, down sped the leaflets through the air. I saw them, on the ground they lay, golden and red, a huddled swarm, waiting till one from far away, white bedclothes heaped upon her arm should come to wrap them safe and warm. The great bare tree looked down and smiled. Good night, dear little leaves, he said. And from below each sleepy child replied, Good night, and murmured, It is so nice to go to bed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I Keep 6 Honest Serving Men, from The Elephant's Child by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by Rhonda Federman. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when, and how and where and who. I send them over land and sea, I send them east and west. But after they have worked for me, I give them all a rest. I let them rest from 9 till 5, for I am busy then, as well as breakfast, lunch, and tea, for they are hungry men. But different folks have different views. I know a person small. She keeps 10 million serving men who get no rest at all. She sends 'em abroad on her own affairs from the second she opens her eyes. 1 million hows, 2 million wares, and 7 million wise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I loved thee, Atthis, in the long ago, by Sappho of Lesbos, translated by Bliss Carman, read for LibriVox.org by Mishka, Johannesburg 2011. I loved thee, Atthis, in the long ago, when the great oleanders were in flower in the broad herded meadows full of sun, and we would often at the fall of dusk wander together by the silver stream, when the soft grass heads were all wet with dew and purple misted in the fading light. And joy I knew, and sorrow at thy voice, and the superb magnificence of love, the loneliness that saddens solitude, and the sweet speech that makes it durable, the bitter longing and the keen desire, the sweet companionship through quiet days, in the slow, ample beauty of the world, and the unutterable glad release within the temple of the holy night. O Atthis, how I loved thee long ago, in that fair perished summer by the sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lament for Chaucer by Thomas Hockleave, read for LibriVox.org by Martin Geeson. Alas, mi worthy Meister honorable, this lande's very treasure and richesse, death by the death hath harm irreparable unto us done. Irvengeable duress despoiled hath this land of the sweetness of rhetoric, for unto Tullius was never man so like among us. Also who was here in philosophy to Aristotle in our tongue but thou? The steppes of Virgil in poesie thou followedst eke, men wot well enow. Thou cumbre world, that they me meister slow, would he slain were, death was too hastive to ren on thee, and drave thee the life. She mich han tarried her vengeance a while, till that some man had egal to thee be. Nay, let be that. She knew well that this ill might never man forth bring like to thee, and her office needest thou mote she. God bade her so, I trust as for the best. O Meister, Meister, God thee soul rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Man Against the Sky by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Grave Alice. Between me and the sunset, like a dome, against the glory of a world on fire, now burned a sudden hill, bleak, round, and high, by flame-lit height made higher, with nothing on it for the flame to kill, save one who moved and was alone up there, to loom before the chaos and the glare, as if he were the last god going home unto his last desire. Dark, marvelous, and inscrutable, he moved on, till down the fiery distance he was gone, like one of those eternal remote things that range across a man's imaginings, when a sure music fills him, and he knows what he may say thereafter to few men, the touch of ages having wrought an echo and a glimpse of what he thought a phantom or a legend until then. For whether lighted over ways that save, or lured from all repose, if he go on too far to find a grave, mostly alone he goes. Even he who stood where I had found him, on high with fire all round him, who moved along the molten west, and over the round hill's crest, that seemed half ready with him to go down, flame-bitten and flame-cleft, as if there were to be no last thing left of a nameless, unimaginable town. Even he who climbed and vanished may have taken, down to the perils of a depth not known, from death defended though by men forsaken, the bread that every man must eat alone. He may have walked while others hardly dared look on to see him stand where many fell, and upward out of that, as out of hell, he may have sung and striven, to mount where more of him shall yet be given, bereft of all retreat, to sevenfold heat, as on a day when three Endura shared the furnace, and were spared for glory by that king of Babylon, who made himself so great that God, who heard, covered him with long feathers like a bird. Again, he might have gone down easily, by comfortable altitudes, and found, as always, underneath him solid ground, whereon to be sufficient and to stand, possessed already of the promised land, far stretched and fair to see. A good sight, verily, and one to make the eyes of her who bore him shine glad with hidden tears. Why question of his ease of who before him, in one place or another where they left their names as far behind them as their bones, and yet by dint of slaughter, toil, and theft, and shrewdly sharpened stones, carved hard the way for his ascendancy through deserts of lost years? Why trouble him now, who sees and hears no more than what his innocence requires, and therefore to no other height aspires than one at which he neither quails nor tires? He may do more by seeing what he sees than others eager for iniquities. He may, by seeing all things for the best, incite futurity to do the rest. Or, with an even likelihood, he may have met with atrabilious eyes the fires of time on equal terms, and passed indifferently down, until at last his only kind of grandeur would have been, apparently, in being seen. He may have had, for evil or for good, no argument. He may have had no care for what without himself went anywhere, to failure or to glory, and least of all for such a stale, flamboyant miracle. He may have been the prophet of an art immovable to old idolatries. He may have been a player without a part, annoyed that even the sun should have the skies for such a flaming way to advertise. He may have been a painter, sick at heart with nature's toiling for a new surprise. He may have been a cynic, who now, for all of anything divine that his effete negation may have tasted, saw truth in his own image, rather small, forbore to fear the ephemeral, found any barren height a good retreat from any swarming street, and in the sun saw power superbly wasted, and when the primitive, old-fashioned stars came out again to shine on joys and wars more primitive, and all arrayed for doom, he may have proved the world a sorry thing in his imagining, and life a lighted highway to the tomb. Or, mounting with infirm, unsearching tread, his hopes to chaos led, he may have stumbled up there from the past, and with an aching strangeness viewed the last abysmal conflagration of his dreams, a flame where nothing seems to burn but flame itself, by nothing fed. And while it all went out, not even the faint anodyne of doubt may then have eased a painful going down from pictured heights of power and lost renown, revealed at length to his outlived endeavor, remote and unapproachable forever. And at his heart there may have gnawed sick memories of a dead faith foiled and flawed, and long dishonored by the living death, assigned alike by chance to brutes and hierophants. And anguish fallen on those he loved around him may once have dealt the last blow to confound him, and so have left him as death leaves a child who sees it all too near. And he who knows no young way to forget may struggle to the tomb unreconciled. Whatever suns may rise or set, there may be nothing kinder for him here than shafts and agonies, and under these he may cry out and stay on horribly. Or, seeing in death too small a thing to fear, he may go forward like a stoic Roman where pangs and terrors in his pathway lie. Or, seizing the swift logic of a woman, curse God and die. Or maybe there, like many another one, who might have stood aloft and looked ahead, black drawn against wild red, he may have built, unawed by fiery gules, that in him no commotion stirred, a living reason out of molecules, why molecules occurred. And when for smiling, when he might have sighed, had he seen far enough, and in the same inevitable stuff discovered an odd reason too for pride, in being what he must have been by laws infrangible and for no kind of cause. Deterred by no confusion or surprise, he may have seen with his mechanic eyes a world without a meaning, and had room alone amid magnificence and doom to build himself an airy monument that should, or fail him in his vague intent, outlast an accidental universe, to call it nothing worse. Or, by the burrowing guile of time disintegrated and effaced, like once remembered mighty trees, go down to ruin, of which by man may now be traced no part sufficient even to be rotten, and in the book of things that are forgotten is entered as a thing not quite worthwhile. He may have been so great that satraps would have shivered at his frown, and all he prized alive may rule a state no larger than a grave that holds a clown. He may have been a master of his fate and of his atoms, ready as another in his emergence to exonerate his father and his mother. He may have been a captain of a host, self-eloquent and ripe for prodigies, doomed here to swell by dangerous degrees and then give up the ghost. Nahum's great grasshoppers were such as these, sun-scattered and soon lost. Whatever the dark road he may have taken, this man who stood on high and faced alone the sky, whatever drove or lured or guided him, a vision answering a faith unshaken, an easy trust assumed of easy trials, a sick negation born of weak denials, a crazed abhorrence of an old condition, a blind attendance on a brief ambition. Whatever stayed him or derided him, his way was even as ours, and we, with all our wounds and all our powers, must each await alone at his own height another darkness or another light. And there, of our poor self-dominion reft, if inference and reason shun hell, heaven, and oblivion, may thwarted will, perforce precarious, but for our conservation better thus, have no misgiving left of doing yet what here we leave undone. Or if unto the last of these we cleave, believing or protesting we believe, in such an idle and ephemeral fluorescence of the diabolical, if, robbed of two fond old enormities, our being had no onward auguries, what then were this great love of ours to say, for launching other lives to voyage again a little farther into time and pain, a little faster in a futile chase for a kingdom and a power and a race that would have still in sight a manifest end of ashes in eternal night? Is this the music of the toys we shake so loud, as if there might be no mistake somewhere in our indomitable will? Are we no greater than the noise we make along one blind atomic pilgrimage, whereon by crass chance billeted we go, because our brains and bones and cartilage will have it so? If this we say, then let us all be still about our share in it, and live and die more quietly thereby. Where was he going, this man against the sky? You know not, nor do I. But this we know, if we know anything, that we may laugh and fight and sing, and of our transience here make offering to an orient word that will not be erased, or, save in incommunicable gleams too permanent for dreams, be found or known. No tonic and ambitious irritant of increase or of want has made an otherwise insensate waste of ages overthrown, a ruthless, veiled, implacable foretaste of other ages that are still to be, depleted and rewarded variously, because a few, by fate's economy, shall seem to move the world the way it goes. No soft evangel of equality, safe cradled in a communal repose, that huddles into death and may at last be covered well with equatorial snows, and all for what the devil only knows, will aggregate an inkling to confirm the credit of a sage or of a worm, or tell us why 1 man in 5 should have a care to stay alive, while in his heart he feels no violence laid on his humor and intelligence, when infant science makes a pleasant face and waves again that hollow toy, the race. No planetary trap where souls are wrought for nothing but the sake of being caught and sent again to nothing, will attune itself to any key of any reason, why man should hunger through another season, to find out why 'twere better late than soon to go away, and let the sun and moon and all the silly stars illuminate a place for creeping things, and those that root and trumpet and have wings, and herd and ruminate, or dive and flash and poise in rivers and seas, or by their loyal tails in lofty trees hang screeching lewd victorious derision of man's immortal vision. Shall we, because eternity records too vast an answer for the time-born words we spell, whereof so many are dead that once in our capricious lexicons were so alive and final, hear no more the word itself, the living word, that none alive has ever heard or ever spelt, and few have ever felt, without the fears and old surrenderings and terrors that began, when death let fall a feather from his wings and humbled the first man. Because the weight of our humility, wherefrom we gain a little wisdom and much pain, falls here too sore and there too tedious, are we in anguish or complacency, not looking far enough ahead to see by what mad couriers we are led along the roads of the ridiculous, to pity ourselves and laugh at fate, and while we curse life bear it? And if we see the soul's dead end in death, are we to fear it? What folly is here that has not yet a name, unless we say outright that we are liars? What have we seen beyond our sunset fires, that lights again the way by which we came? Why pay we such a price, and one we give so clamoringly, for each racked empty day that leads one more last human hope away, as quiet fiends would lead past our crazed eyes our children to an unseen sacrifice? If after all that we have lived and thought, all comes to naught, if there be nothing after now, and we be nothing anyhow, and we know that, why live? 'Twere sure but weaklings' vain distress to suffer dungeons where so many doors will open on the cold eternal shores that look sheer down to the dark tideless floods of nothingness, where all who know may drown. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Kelly Akridge. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have set us down to wet right many a nipperkin. But ranged as infantry, and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe of course he was. That's clear enough. Although he thought he'd list, perhaps, offhand-like, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps. No other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down, you treat, if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peer of the Gods He Seems, by Sappho of Lesbos, translated by Bliss Carman. Read for LibriVox.org by Mishka, Johannesburg, 2011. Peer of the Gods he seems, who in thy presence sits and hears close to him thy silver speech tones and lovely laughter. Ah, but the heart flutters under my bosom when I behold thee even a moment. Utterance leaves me, my tongue is useless, a subtle fire runs through my body, my eyes are sightless, and my ears ringing. I flush with fever, and a strong trembling lays hold upon me. Paler than grass am I, half dead for madness. Yet must I, greatly daring, adore thee, as the adventurous sailor makes seaward for the lost skyline and undiscovered fabulous islands, drawn by the lure of beauty and summer and the sea's secret. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Romance by Robert Louis Stevenson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I will make you brooches and toys for your delight of bird song at morning and star shine at night. I will make a palace fit for you and me of green days in forests and blue days at sea. I will make my kitchen, and you shall keep your room where white flows the river and bright blows the broom. And you shall wash your linen and keep your body white in rainfall at morning and dewfall at night. And this shall be for music when no one else is near, the fine song for singing, the rare song to hear, that only I remember, that only you admire, of the broad road that stretches and the roadside fire. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rose Alymer by Walter Savage Landor. Read for LibriVox.org by Florence Short. Ah, what avails a sceptre race? Ah, what the form divine? What every virtue, every grace? Rose Alymer, all were thine. Rose Alymer, whom these wakeful eyes may weep but never see, a night of memories and sighs I consecrate to thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sapphics by Algernon Charles Swinburne. Read for LibriVox.org by Amy Koenig. All the night sleep came not upon my eyelids, shed not dew, nor shook nor unclosed a feather, yet with lips shut close and with eyes of iron stood and beheld me. Then to me, so lying awake, a vision came without sleep over the seas and touched me, softly touched mine eyelids and lips, and I too, full of the vision, saw the white implacable Aphrodite, saw the hair unbound and the feet unsandaled shine as fire of sunset on western waters, saw the reluctant feet, the straining plumes of the doves that drew her, looking always, looking with necks reverted back to Lesbos, back to the hills whereunder shone Mytilene. Heard the flying feet of the loves behind her make a sudden thunder upon the waters, as the thunder flung from the strong unclosing wings of a great wind. So the goddess fled from her place, with awful sound of feet and thunder of wings around her, while behind a clamour of singing women severed the twilight. Ah, the singing! Ah, the delight, the passion! All the loves wept, listening. Sick with anguish stood the crowned 9 muses about Apollo. Fear was upon them, while the 10th sang wonderful things they knew not. Ah, the 10th, the lesbian! The 9 were silent. None endured the sound of her song for weeping. Laurel by laurel faded all their crowns. But about her forehead, round her woven tresses and ashen temples, white as dead snow, paler than grass in summer, ravaged with kisses, shone a light of fire as a crown forever. Yea, almost the implacable Aphrodite paused and almost wept. Such a song was that song. Yea, by her name too called her, saying, "Turn to me, O my Sappho." Yet she turned her face from the loves. She saw not tears for laughter darken immortal eyelids, heard not about her fearful, fitful wings of the doves departing, saw not how the bosom of Aphrodite shook with weeping, saw not her shaken raiment, saw not her hands wrung, saw the lesbians kissing across their smitten lutes with lips more sweet than the sound of lute strings, mouth to mouth and hand upon hand, her chosen, fairer than all men. Only saw the beautiful lips and fingers, full of songs and kisses and little whispers, full of music. Only beheld among them soar, as a bird soars newly fledged, her visible song, a marvel, made of perfect sound and exceeding passion, sweetly shapen, terrible, full of thunders, clothed with the wind's wings. Then rejoiced she, laughing with love, and scattered roses, awful roses of holy blossom. Then the loves thronged sadly with hidden faces round Aphrodite. Then the muses, stricken at heart, were silent. Yea, the gods waxed pale. Such a song was that song. All reluctant, all with a fresh repulsion fled from before her. All withdrew long since, and the land was barren, full of fruitless women and music only. Now perchance, when winds are assuaged at sunset, lulled at the dewfall, by the grey seaside, unassuaged, unheard of, unbeloved, unseen in the ebb of twilight, ghosts of outcast women return lamenting, purged not in Lethe, clothed about with flame and with tears, and singing songs that move the heart of the shaken heaven, songs that break the heart of the earth with pity, hearing to hear them. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Scintilla by William Stanley Braithwaite. Read for LibriVox.org by Victoria Grace. I kissed a kiss in youth upon a dead man's brow, and that was long ago, and I'm a grown man now. It's lain there in the dust 30 years and more, my lips that set a light at a dead man's door. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Snowman by Wallace Stevens. Read for LibriVox.org by Loubet. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land full of the same wind that is blowing the same bare place for the listener, who listens in the snow, and nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Something Childish, but Very Natural, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Read for LibriVox.org by Carol Box. In Surrey, England, August 2011. Written in Germany. If I had but 2 little wings, and were a little feathery bird, to you I'd fly, my dear. But thoughts like these are idle things, and I stay here. But in my sleep to you I fly, I'm always with you in my sleep. The world is all one's own, but then one wakes, and where am I? All alone. Sleep stays not, though a monarch bids. So I love to wake ere break of day, for though my sleep be gone, yet while 'tis dark, one shuts one's lids, and still dreams on. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Christina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. When I am dead, my dearest, sing no sad songs for me. Plant thou no roses at my head, nor shady cypress tree. Be the green grass above me with showers and dewdrops wet. And if thou wilt, remember. And if thou wilt, forget. I shall not see the shadows. I shall not feel the rain. I shall not hear the nightingales sing on as if in pain. And dreaming through the twilight that doth not rise nor set, haply I may remember, and haply may forget. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Ode for St. Cecilia's Day, 1687, by John Dryden. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy, Perth, Western Australia. Stanza 1. From harmony, from heavenly harmony this universal frame began, when nature underneath a heap of jarring atoms lay, and could not heave her head, the tuneful voice was heard from high, Arise, ye more than dead, then cold, and hot, and moist, and dry, in order to their stations leap, and music's power obey. From harmony, from heavenly harmony this universal frame began, from harmony to harmony, through all the compass of the notes it ran, the diapason closing full in man. Stanza 2. What passion cannot music raise and quell? When Jubal struck the chorded shell, his listening brethren stood around, and wondering, on their faces fell to worship that celestial sound. Less than a god they thought there could not dwell within the hollow of that shell, that spoke so sweetly and so well. What passion cannot music raise and quell? Stanza 3. The trumpet's loud clangour excites us to arms with shrill notes of anger and mortal alarms. The double, double, double beat of the thundering drum cries, Hark, the foes come! Charge, charge, 'tis too late to retreat. Stanza 4. The soft complaining flute in dying notes discovers the woes of hopeless lovers, whose dirge is whispered by the warbling lute. Stanza 5. Sharp violins proclaim their jealous pangs and desperation, fury, frantic indignation, depth of pains and height of passion for the fair, disdainful dame. Stanza 6. But oh, what art can teach, what human voice can reach the sacred organ's praise? Notes inspiring holy love, notes that wing their heavenly ways to mend the choirs above. Stanza 7. Orpheus could lead the savage race, and trees unrooted left their place, sequacious of the lyre, but bright Cecilia raised the wonder higher, when to her organ vocal breath was given, and angel heard, and straight appeared, mistaking earth for heaven. Grand Chorus. As from the power of sacred lays the spheres began to move, and sung the great Creator's praise to all the blest above, so when the last and dreadful hour this crumbling pageant shall devour, the trumpet shall be heard on high, the dead shall live, the living die, and music shall untune the sky. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet to Science by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by Kelly Acridge. Science, true daughter of old time thou art, who alterest all things with thy peering eyes. Why preyest thou thus upon the poet's heart, vulture, whose wings are dull realities? How should he love thee, or how deem thee wise, who wouldst not leave him in his wandering to seek for treasure in the jewelled skies, albeit he soared with an undaunted wing? Hast thou not dragged Diana from her car, and driven the Hamadryad from the wood to seek a shelter in some happier star? Hast thou not torn the Naiad from her flood, the elfin from the green grass, and from me the summer dream beneath the tamarind tree? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Tay Bridge Disaster by William McGonagall. Read for LibriVox.org by Juliann. Beautiful railway bridge of the silvery Tay, alas, I am very sorry to say that 90 lives have been taken away on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time. 'Twas about 7 o'clock at night, and the wind it blew with all its might, and the rain came pouring down, and the dark clouds seemed to frown, and the demon of the air seemed to say, I'll blow down the bridge of Tay. When the train left Edinburgh, the passengers' hearts were light and felt no sorrow, but Boreas blew a terrific gale, which made their hearts for to quail, and many of the passengers with fear did say, I hope God will send us safe across the bridge of Tay. But when the train came near to Wormit Bay, Boreas he did loud and angry bray, and shook the central girders of the bridge of Tay, on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time. So the train sped on with all its might, and bonny Dundee soon hove in sight, and the passengers' hearts felt light, thinking they would enjoy themselves on the new year, with their friends at home they loved most dear, and wished them all a happy new year. So the train moved slowly along the bridge of Tay, until it was about midway. Then the central girders with a crash gave way, and down went the train and passengers into the Tay. The storm fiend did loudly bray, because 90 lives had been taken away, on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time. As soon as the catastrophe came to be known, the alarm from mouth to mouth was blown, and the cry rang out all o'er the town, Good heavens, the Tay Bridge is blown down, and the passenger train from Edinburgh, which filled all the people's hearts with sorrow, and made them for to turn pale, because none of the passengers were saved to tell the tale, how the disaster happened on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time. It must have been an awful sight to witness in the dusky moonlight, while the storm fiend did laugh and angry did bray along the railway bridge of the silvery Tay. O ill-fated bridge of the silvery Tay, I must now conclude my lay by telling the world fearlessly, without the least dismay, that your central girders would not have given way, at least many sensible men do say, had they been supported on each side with buttresses, at least many sensible men confess us, For the stronger we our houses do build, the less chance we have of being killed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Voice by Thomas Hardy, read for LibriVox.org by Jennifer Randall. Woman, much missed, how you call to me, saying that now you are not as you were when you had changed from the one who was all to me, but as at first, when our day was fair. Can it be you that I hear? Let me view you then, standing as when I drew near to the town where you would wait for me. Yes, as I knew you then, even to the original air-blue gown. Or is it only the breeze, in it listlessness, travelling across the wet mead to me here? You being ever dissolved to one wistlessness, heard no more again, far or near. Thus I, faltering forward, leaves around me falling, wind oozing thin through the thorn from norward, and the woman calling. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Way Through the Woods by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. They shut the road through the woods 70 years ago. Weather and rain have undone it again, and now you would never know there was once a road through the woods before they planted the trees. It is underneath the coppice and heath and the thin anemones. Only the keeper sees that where the ringdove broods and the badgers roll at ease, there was once a road through the woods. Yet if you enter the woods of a summer evening late, when the night air cools on the trout-ringed pools, where the otter whistles his mate, they fear not men in the woods because they see so few, you will hear the beat of a horse's feet and the swish of a skirt in the dew, steadily cantering through the misty solitudes, as though they perfectly knew the old lost road through the woods. But there is no road through the woods. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When Childhood Died by John Frederick Freeman. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. I can recall the day when childhood died. I had grown thin and tall and eager-eyed. Such a false happiness had seized me then. A child, I saw myself man among men. Now I see that I was ignorant, surprised, as one for the surgeon's knife anesthetized. So that I did not know what loomed before, nor how a child I became a child no more. The world's sharpened knife cut round my heart, then something was taken and flung apart. I did not, could not know what had been done. Under some evil drag I lived as one at home in the seeming world, then slowly came through years and years to myself, and was no more the same. I know now an ill thing was done to a young child, by the world's wary knife maimed and defiled. I can recall the day almost without anger or pain, when childhood did not die, but was slain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When We Two Parted by Lord Byron, read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Polisena. When we two parted in silence and tears, half broken-hearted to sever for years, pale grew thy cheek and cold, colder thy kiss. Truly that hour foretold sorrow to this. The dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. It felt like the warning of what I feel now. Thy vows are all broken, and light is thy fame. I hear thy name spoken and share in its shame. They name thee before me, a knell to mine ear. A shudder comes over me. Why wert thou so dear? They know not I knew thee, who knew thee too well. Long, long shall I rue thee, too deeply to tell. In secret we met, in silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee with silence and tears? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.